What's up, guys? Welcome to the video. Welcome back to the FuzzFam channel today. Good morning. Good morning.
Okay.
I would like to officially, with great robustness, welcome everybody to episode 6 of Benny on the Beat. I had to think for a minute. I couldn't remember how many we'd done. Six already. 6. Wow. Wow. I want to talk to you guys. I want to talk. Just come in and talk to Papa Ben. Right here, look me in the eye. So I got an email this week from a new friend of mine named Nick Snyder. It included a video introduction for our channel. Now, some of you may know who Nick is. Most of you probably do not. I want you to know who Nick Snyder is. You need to know who Nick Snyder is. Watch this video.
What's going on, everybody? My name is Nick Snyder.
Channel 664.
When you were watching the FuzzFam.
He's better than PewDiePie.
Yeah, that seems about right.
Hey Fuzz, I did it. How much were we doing this for again?
Yeah. Yes. In your face, PewDiePie. I knew I was better.
Oh yeah? Oh yeah! But can he do this?
So guys, I want to officially introduce to you and recommend for your viewing pleasure the channel 664, run by Officer Nick Snyder out of Bermuda. By Bermuda, I mean Lancaster, Ohio. Close. So Nick started his channel almost exactly 1 year after we did, October 2017. So he hasn't been on the platform for too long. And he's got a handful of videos, but guys, these videos, you've got to check this guy's channel out. It's so good. His content is informative. He's got the humor. He's got the wit. I mean, look at his most recent video. It was a tour of his police car. The police car tour video. I know how much you guys love those. You've got to check his out. Highly recommend you go over and check out Nick's channel. Watch a few of his videos. Subscribe to his channel. Leave a comment letting him know where you came from. Rep the FuzzFam. So go over and show him some love. I've put a link to his channel either somewhere here on the screen or in the description down below or both. All right, let's get into the video this week. But first, a word from our sponsor. This video brought to you by Pineapple. Oh, it's so good. Ow. Maybe on a quick serious note about sponsorships, we really don't have one if you couldn't tell, but Mike the Cop actually sent me a couple of little products this week we got in the mail. Apparently this is his. I don't know the full story, Mike, I'm sorry. I could be wrong on the details on this, but thank you, Mike, for sending us these. They're supposed to be a really good pre-workout or also recovery drink, like a little energy shot. All I know is I took one before playing video games the other day on our live stream and I dominated. Absolutely dominated. Oh, crap. I ran out of bullets! There might have been a fluke or a glitch or two in there, but I met my personal goals. All right, let's look at some comments from you guys from last week's video. From ATC Guardian, pretty sure Chevrolet will never be sponsoring FuzzFam's channel. That's a fact, but you know what? I wouldn't want to be sponsored by them. I wouldn't even allow it. Quality, people, quality. I will not be sponsored or sponsor or endorse anything that is not the highest quality. Speaking of cars, I actually got my car back. For anybody that's been watching the videos and been keeping track of what's been going on, I have the old one back. Or the new one, the old one, not the whatever. Jordan Peterson, do you normally stay in one part of the city or do you work in different areas each shift? Shout out from your neighbor to the west. What's up, neighbors to the west? Well, thank you, Jordan. We normally end up staying in one part of the city. We have an area that we're assigned to, like a small beat type area, and then we have a wider, bigger district that we have a group of officers assigned to. Then it goes up to the city being divided into 2 halves. So every city is gonna have different ways of dividing up the areas that they cover for patrol. But for us, we're usually in one area. There could be calls that come in though, like priority crazy type calls where if no other officers are available, we may have to go to the other side of the city, and that does happen, but usually we're in the same kind of general geographic area for most of the shift. Jack Johnson, loving the series, man. I apologize if this has been asked before, but what's the rotation like at your department? For example, working 5 days on, then having 4 days off. So Jack, I work on 4 days on, 3 days off. We work 10-hour shifts. I've worked for 3 different agencies in my career. I started working 12s, then I went to working 8s, then I've been on 10s with the last 2 departments that I've been with. I personally prefer the 10s. It works out well. I like having those 3 days off. It usually seems to be enough. Ricky360, hi FuzzFam, love the virtual patrols. I also have a question for you. Are you picky about the light bars on police cars? Ricky, no, I'm not picky because we don't really have any pick or say in the matter on what kind of lighting equipment is on our cars, at least in the departments I've worked on. If it were up to me and I could pick, I'd probably be a little bit more picky, but it's just whatever comes with the car. That being said, I do think they're doing some cool things. Some of the companies out there that make make light bars these days. I really like the ones that everything on the front of the bar goes from red to blue or whatever the colors are, but can also go to white. So you can make the whole thing a takedown mode where it's just all bright light going into the car, and then it can go back to red and blues or whatever. I don't know the names of the different light bars, but there's a few out there that can do that, and I think that's pretty cool. And we'll do one more to keep it a little shorter this week and get right into the recap of my calls. From Peace Pranks, how often do you make traffic stops? So we kind of talked about that last time. I joked about finally having made a traffic stop because I hadn't made one in so long. So Peace, I've mentioned it before, but my department is busy enough on patrol. We don't usually have time to do a lot of self-initiated activities, so I don't do lots of traffic enforcement where I currently work. I've worked for departments in the past where we have plenty of free time, and I did all kinds of traffic enforcement. So right now it kind of averages anywhere from none every few months to maybe 1 or 2. But I did make another traffic stop this week. I don't know if that's going to be in the recap or not, but I did do another one. I'm on a roll, baby.
You go, girl!
All right, first call we're talking about was a suzpissish-a. Oh, we're off to a fantastic start. A suspicious circumstance. This was kind of an interesting one. This was a lady that managed an apartment building. One of the tenants had come to tell her that there was a guy stashing a bunch of stuff in the wall of the carport, in his carport. It's got sheet metal for the wall, and he had ripped a piece off or found a hole in it and was stashing stuff in there. Like a squirrel putting nuts in a tree before winter. So I showed up and she took me down to where the carport was, and I looked in the hole where the sheet metal was pulled back, and sure enough, there was tons of crap in there. Tons of crap. And I mean crap, like scales from doctor's offices, and I don't even remember what all of it was, but there was no tools, TVs, electronics, or anything with serial numbers. It was just really junk. Wasn't much that we could do about it. We weren't going to take all the stuff out and seize it. We had no legal right or reason to do that. So we just told them if the guy came back and was causing problems, they were welcome to call us or just tell him to get his stuff out and leave. Then we went on a suicide attempt. This came in with the boyfriend calling our dispatcher saying that his girlfriend was actively cutting and stabbing herself. So we head up there with fire and paramedics and everything. We got there first before the fire guys. Boyfriend flags us down. We go into the apartment. First thing I notice is there is blood everywhere, all over the floor, on the wall. I mean, there was a lot of blood. We make our way through the apartment. He says she's in the back. I go back there and she is huddled down on the ground, conscious, alert, and everything, but crying and like emotionally disturbed, tucked into a corner where I couldn't like see what was in her left hand. So I carefully approached and asked her if I could see what was in her hand, and she showed me a glass, like broken glass bottle that was obviously what she'd been stabbing herself with. Got her to drop that, started talking to her, wasn't very talkative, didn't really want to talk to me. So on these type of calls, we get in and make sure the scene is secure because the fire guys won't come in until it is. So once we got the glass out of her hand and knew that there were no other issues in the apartment, we let them come in to start talking to her. And on these, it's pretty straightforward. If somebody is a danger to themselves or other people, we've talked about this with some calls on some of the previous virtual ride-alongs, but if they're a danger to themselves or others, then they need to be committed for psychiatric evaluation. So in this case, as is often the case, they didn't want to go. She said she didn't need it. She was fine, didn't need medical attention, she was refusing to go. So we have to explain to people sometimes, you know what, respectfully, it's not your call. It's not up to you. I'm making you go. Sometimes when that's explained to people, they get the point and they go, they don't cause any problems. Sometimes we have to use a little bit of force or put them in handcuffs to get them to go.
You are a meanie.
Fortunately, in this case, once I laid it out for her and explained that it was not her call and that if she just cooperated, she would likely get out sooner. She cooperated, went out, got in the ambulance, and that was that. Next one was a vandalism. The information on this one was that somebody threw a flaming bag of garbage onto the complainant's balcony. So this is an apartment building, like high-rise type thing, and she went out on her balcony and found a flaming bag of garbage.
That's messed up.
And since she was up several floors, it was obvious that nobody threw it up. It had to have come from somebody to the sides or above her. She couldn't think of any reason why anyone would do that other than she did call the police on some meth that she found on the ground a few days earlier, and they came out and picked it up. She was wondering if maybe it was the meth owner and somehow they knew that she had called, and so they were mad about losing their meth and having the police get it. Probably not very likely. I told her it was probably just somebody up above that was being stupid, drunk, or something, and the wind just took it down and it landed on her balcony. At least it was garbage, right? I guess there could be worse things on fire.
Judas Priest Barber is one of those flaming bags again.
Next one was an unwanted, possible mental health issue. This was a business where a lady had come in and tried to buy something and was causing problems, started yelling, screaming, saying things that didn't make any sense. They asked her to leave. She refused, started accusing them of beating up her grandmother or something like that. So I got there and she was standing by her shopping cart and started saying the same stuff to me. She accused them of like raping or beating up her grandmother, but then she said her grandmother was dead at the same time. Clearly some mental health issues going on, but she wasn't a danger to herself or anybody else. She was just bothering the customers and they wanted her to leave. So I explained that to her and asked her to leave. She started arguing and talking to me. I had to kind of escalate my voice a little bit and tell her, now is the time to leave or you're going to jail. Sometimes when you bump up the octave just a little bit and get a little forceful with people, they understand.
You are a meanie.
And that's all it took. In this case, she got her stuff and she was on her way. Next call was a shots fired call. This was just somebody that heard what they thought was gunshots. Now in agencies I've worked in the past, this was always people practicing at gun ranges when there were gun ranges close. We always knew it was somebody just shooting at the ranges. However, now that I work in a city urban environment, when we get reports of shots fired, it's almost always legitimately shots fired. People shooting guns, drive-by shootings or something. So we went and checked the area on this one. We couldn't find anything and we didn't have any other calls. This is something else I've mentioned before, but when we get multiple calls from people on a certain incident, we know that it's probably legitimate. There were no other calls on this one, and you think there would be if somebody was shooting guns going through their neighborhood. Either way, we couldn't find anything, moved on to the next one. Then I did in fact make a traffic stop, and yes, it was for the same reason again. Kind of hard to pass it up when you got a car in front of you at night with absolutely no lights on. It was easy. I just stopped them and had them turn them on. No warrants, no drugs, no blades, no bows, just got them on their way. Next call, I got to do a little booking of evidence. This was what we call a Code R kit pickup. So when people report being the victims of sexual abuse or rapes or things like that, and they go to the hospital, they'll have a forensic examination by a qualified nurse. Once they're done with that, they package up all the evidence, which could include clothing and blood samples, urine samples, things like that, and they call us to come pick it up. So we come get all that stuff, take it down to our evidence, and get it all booked. It's not always all of those things. Sometimes it's just the kit, sometimes it's clothing in the kit. In this case, it was all of it. Blood, urine, clothing, and the actual kit. So I spent a little bit of time in evidence getting all that stuff booked in. Then we went on a traffic accident. This one was minor injuries. She had a hurt arm, but nothing that required her being hauled off in an ambulance. I didn't get any videos or pictures of this one, but we figured this gal was traveling pretty fast through the neighborhood when an SUV backed out of a driveway, didn't notice her. He said because she was going too fast, but he backed out and she taxed the end of the SUV, knocking him to the side like that and pushed her over to the other side of the road. And when the fire guys came and talked to her, they told us afterwards that they smelled alcohol on her. So my partner was doing the accident report and asked me to go talk to her and try to determine whether she'd been drinking and driving. So I spoke with her, took a look at her eyes, did a few informal tests just to see if there was any reason to go through the full DUI investigation. And there was nothing. There were no signs at all. That firefighter was out of his mind. Oh, next call. This one actually resulted in an arrest. This was an unwanted person again at a restaurant, at a Burger King. Same Burger King that we've had other calls I've talked about on this series before. But they were saying there was a guy that was shirtless at the store that was refusing to leave. That's all the information we had. So I got to the Burger King, went inside. They were pointing out through the window, like the employees, they got a secure window to the back. They were pointing out like this to the bathroom. I turned the corner towards the bathroom and he was just coming out. No shirt or anything, bleeding from the head. I introduced myself, asked if he was okay, if he needed any medical attention. He was not very talkative, but that was fine. If he didn't want to talk, whatever. I did tell him he had to leave and he was compliant. He walked by me and walked out with no problems. I thought that was the end of it, but the employee came out and started telling me he had actually tried to get into the back of the employee area. He was trying to open the door. One of them came out to see what he needed and he walked right by him back into the employee area. Scared the crap out of all of them. And right as she's telling me this, a woman comes in from outside, gets my attention and says, he just tried to get in our car.
Dude.
And I had noticed this family in a car when I first walked in. They had kids in the car and everything, and apparently this guy tries to get in the car. So my partner had just showed up at that time. I walked out of the restaurant and the guy was walking away from the building. I yelled at him, ordered him to stop. He did. We went and got him into handcuffs because he was tensing up and looking around like he was gonna fight or run from us. So I started talking to him to try to figure out the reason for the behavior because I could see the bump on the head. So I was wondering if that was causing it or if it was something like alcohol or drugs. Guy was totally uncooperative, started being a jackwagon, just told me to take him to jail, which is what ended up happening. We ended up taking him for intoxication and giving him a place to stay for the night.
Outstanding.
And that was about it. Those were the highlights of my calls for the week. Just want to thank you guys again for continuing to come back and show support for this series and for the channel, for leaving a like, for subscribing, and also for leaving the comments. That's one of my favorite things about this is interacting with you guys. And I know, I apologize, I can't get to everybody's comments. I'd like to thank the sponsor of this video again, Pineapple. Just remember, people, they're not for snuggling with. Anyway, we love you guys. We hope everybody has a great rest of the weekend, a fantastic week, and we will see you guys, as always, in the next video.
Let's level up, pedal to the metal when I play the cut. Doing double time like double dutch. Stay a dime a dozen, so I double up. These late nights finna pay off. Gonna take flight, no days off. My blood pumping, my blade sharp. Young Savon, tryna save all.
Now watch me whip, kill it. Now watch me nay nay. Wow.